Hello, I'm ImmaDreygon, and this video started off as a review of the Lorax, but we're not doing that anymore. Not entirely anyways. I couldn't really do that because most of it would have just been this rant, and I figured I'd cover my thoughts on the film as a whole here. So now I'll just leave you with this joke from a first draft that I had.
Oh, hi Ted! What's up?
You know me, just cruising, putting out the vibe. Just me and my thoughts.
And we'll move on. This is a little perspective.
I'd like some fresh, clear, well-seasoned perspective. Can you suggest a good wine to go with that?
So, let's talk about context. It's a thing that I would really like to ignore when it comes to animated film because I like getting sucked into whatever world is being presented. I don't want to hear about behind-the-scenes drama about not promoting good work, or the villain being voiced by a sexual predator, or having to pretend like Mel Gibson can pass as a good guy in a film about racism, or the fact that the animators were treated only slightly better than slaves. I could go on forever. This kind of context really isn't too relevant to the art that it's related to in the long term, 10 or 20 years down the road. Yes, studio mandates can cause things to get rushed through or pump up expectations for a less than deserving film, so on and so forth. But Sausage Party isn't made a better or worse film because of the terrible conditions of most of the animators. Hopper isn't intimidating because Kevin Spacey has been revealed as a grade A creep. He's that way because he kills 3 guys who dare to have a dissenting opinion. Never forget about that. Hopper is a verified psychopath. That having been said, fuck Sausage Party, pay your animators. And Kevin Spacey can go to hell, but I don't hate his movies because of that. I just hope he doesn't get cast in new ones. This becomes less possible to ignore when the film decides it wants to reference the real world, whether that be through overt impersonations that age terribly because nobody knows who William F. Buckley Jr. is anymore, or weird fan fiction about what really happened in the past, or jokes whose basis are in the real world.
Oh, hey, don't sweat it, Sykes. A lot of whitefish can't do it.
This kind of context is directly related to the film because it's shown or mentioned, and isn't background drama that, while sometimes serious, isn't particularly relevant when factoring in the quality of the lasting product. For example, if you watch The Breadwinner without at least a little bit of knowledge about the Taliban, number 1, watch the news sometime. Number 2, you're doing yourself a disservice. It's of far less consequence in something like Hercules where you can point out, hey, this isn't faithful to the source material, and the sum product of that is, okay. So, context is kind of important sometimes, but when it's not, I like to ignore it in favor of just the film as a whole, because I will always be a fan over being an academic. I don't feel the need to point out what the directors, producers, composers, actors, animators, and so on went through in order to make the movie. In addition, it's always hard to tell exactly when I stop talking about context and start talking about how even referring to the invading army as Huns is confusing because while the Huns and the Xiongnu are potentially linked linguistically, the Western world that the film was mostly made for know the Huns as Eastern Europe and pillaging Rome. Whereas the Xiongnu seem to be more similar to Mongols, although not really Mongolian either despite living in and around present-day Mongolia. But all of that is missing the point because neither the term Xiongnu nor Mongols or Mongolians fit the cadence of I'll make a man out of you, so I guess we're just gonna stick with Han as the go-to term, because that's the least of the historical inaccuracies if we're gonna be totally honest. And if they're gonna add another one on in order to keep up musical standards, it makes sense. After all, Disney makes musicals, not documentaries. I just want to watch it and see if it's good, what I like about it and what I don't, because it should be able to stand on its own 2 feet, and while cultural context of the time the film came out may explain why it is the way it is, it doesn't change how the film actually is. So now, let's finally talk about the Lorax and why it brought me down this conceptual path today. And that is because I paid attention to a bit of the context. You see, the Lorax was made by Illumination Entertainment, my personal least favorite animation studio in the business. And that's not because of the quality of their films. Well, not exclusively anyways. Illumination has this nasty habit of making perfectly mediocre movies, but it's not for lack of trying to make something genuinely good. Oh wait, it totally is! Everything is perfectly by the book, and they use stupidly obvious cost-cutting techniques. Oh, you have like 6 different animal models reused over the course of Sing? Gru's brother is his twin, so you don't need a new character model, nor a new voice actor, but it doesn't factor into the plot of the film at all? Every single one of your films caps at a budget of $80 million? Let me let you in on a little bit of a secret here, Illumination. You are not underdogs anymore! You can afford to raise your budget a bit! Do you know how Pixar spent so much time trying to perfect Sully's 2 million plus strands of hair? Or how Disney made their own physics engine for snow in Frozen? We will never see that kind of effort out of Illumination. They are all about making a product over a film, then advertise the hell out of it to make bank. It's a great business model, actually. They make tons of money doing it. But again, I approach the subject of animation always as a fan. And a fan doesn't say, "Congrats on all your money, corporation, you sure have cash now." A fan says, "Give me something different, or interesting, or better. I know you're capable of it. Please, just try!" Most studios around today take some risks or innovate some way in what they do. Disney has had a billion years to try things and have them fail, switch it up a bit, and destroy people's expectations. DreamWorks' early days had a mature Bible story, and in more recent years have made 2 very well put together action-adventure series, and a surprisingly dark holiday crossover to shake things up big time alongside their more standard fare. Pixar and Ghibli are obvious, but even studios other than those titans can put out really good films. Blue Sky and Sony have both shown the potential to do very good work in the past, and both look like they're trying new things in the future as well. Meanwhile, Laika is somehow creating masterpiece upon masterpiece upon pretty good upon masterpiece with a budget that might literally be popsicle sticks and glue. All are showing willingness to improve or change, or at a minimum, put out good films. And Illumination does not improve or change. It does not show any initiative to want to improve or change. And that is because their product is perfectly fine by their own standards, i.e. money. Their next 4 planned films are more of exactly what they've done. To be exact, a second Dr. Seuss adaptation that already had an animated adaptation done decades ago, followed by 3 sequels. One of them being the sequel of a spin-off. So then, why is all of this relevant to their film, The Lorax? Well, unlike any of their other films, The Lorax tackles a particular message, that being environmentalism and anti-corporatism. You see, all of the trees are gone, and they live in a plastic town overlooked by some bad fan art of gender-bent Edna Mode. A generic nothing child wants to plant a tree to impress this girl. Yeah, they made romance the prime motivation in an environmental film. So he skips town to talk to the Shadow Man, who tells him about how he cut down all of the trees for his business despite warnings from the Lorax. Then Shadow Man gives Child a seed to plant in the middle of town, something Edna really doesn't want, because his business is selling air, and trees would hurt that business. The movie on the whole is fine. The performances don't suck, there are some jokes that work alright, and the musical numbers are... there to fill time. There's a distinct lack of diversity in the forest wildlife, which is odd, and the animation is up to Illumination standards, which means even the trees look like plastic and character design is tossed out the window. Overall, there is little to actively object to about the movie. It's bad, but it's not particularly insulting. But when we add in context, my opinion changes a great deal. So, there are 2 different villains in this story. One is this guy, the other is this guy, and both of them are entirely focused on business. Damn the people, damn the environment, I'll ruin it all and keep it ruined if it makes me money. This guy becomes willing to cut down trees to make his appeals to everyone because it is everything product faster. And this one who wants to stop the environment from recovering so he can sell air, despite people apparently being able to breathe normally everywhere anyway. Standard villains for an environmental movie. Whatever. But here's the thing. Illumination is both of the villains. The product is somewhere between nothing at all and vague beyond belief as long as it sells. Their work makes everything into plastic. They used a film adaptation of a beloved environmental book to promote a fucking car. Illumination does not care about their product so long as it is cheap, easy to make, and makes them bank. And they have not yet learned the lesson that they wanted to teach. Them preaching an anti-corporate environmental message like this is hypocritical beyond belief. It's Michael Vick running a dog shelter. It's marriage counseling from Henry VIII. These are good and decent things, but from the exact last person you would want it from. This shouldn't be the mascot of Illumination Entertainment. This should be. He's all of the garbage character design, money-grubbing corporate tactics, and lack of actual personality as well as inability to change rolled into one. That is why I cannot stand the Lorax, and it's why context is important.
I hate Japanese homophobes. I hate those disabled rapists. I hate Burmese cats. Yeah, I don't care about your color or your creed. I will judge you for no reason but your deeds.
Next time, we'll be talking about a whole lot of death.